Hi there and welcome to Eric's Creative. This is my new creative channel that I'm putting up on YouTube so that I can just talk a little bit about what I do. I have a few people who ask me, about graphics things from time to time and such on. So I'm putting up this channel not only for graphics. That's just a little bit of what I do, and I don't even do that professionally for the most part. I do graphics for friends or for individual people who ask me about it, and I like to do them a lot for myself. I'm always creating new designs or whatnot. I've sold a few prints and things that I've created. I also use graphics a lot to express an idea that I can't convey through words or that somebody just can't grasp. So I do use graphics quite a bit. I use Photoshop a lot. I also use quite a bit of Illustrator. Creative outlets that are not so much business oriented. I have a lot of experience in different kinds of hands-on creative stuff. You can see here on screen, for instance, that I do some woodworking. This is the bottom trestle of a table that I made out of some wood that I found out in a field somewhere in Chile, South America, when we lived there. Here's the table complete with one of my sculptures that I did on top of it. You can see that it's a live edge table that I also modified here in this area here to give it a uniform feel with the natural edge that was down the edge of it. So where I had to cut it at the ends to make it the length that I wanted, I beveled that and then I made it together, made it look equal together. The top slab of my table, you can see the hand carved table legs that I made there as well. Now, just so you guys know, I don't have and never have had a major woodworking shop. I did all of this stuff with a circular saw, a handheld belt sander, a handheld planer, and a handheld drill, and a jigsaw. That's what I've done it all. Oh yeah, and I use the angle grinder more than anything. It's amazing how much you can do woodworking wise with an angle grinder. And I just use flat circular disc for grinding or sanding. I would like to get a turbo plane or something like that, and maybe I will in the future, and maybe some of the projects will include that. I don't know yet. But this was just wood that somebody handed me. It was out in the field. That's why it has these splotches of where it's turning into rot. But it was so beautiful, I just ended up using a Danish oil on it, and that's what I did. I just kept resurfacing it and putting Danish oil on it. Here's the sculpture that I made. It's an abstract bird sculpture. I sculpted the top portion here, and I also made the base piece. And here's some illustration work that I did. I hand drew the chair first, and then I went back and illustrated it in Illustrator, and then put the backgrounds and that kind of stuff in it. Here's a graphic that I've sold a number of. It's a print that I do on watercolor paper, and it has a mid-century modern feel to it. It was done completely in Illustrator. I did all the shapes, and then in the background I added some textures and things like that. It seems to be fairly popular. And this is another reverse painting on plexiglass that I did with acrylic paints. And the buffet I did not make. That is one that we bought, but I have made a buffet. I'll show that in a little bit. Sculpture that I sculpted out of red oak. I made a few sculptures out of red oak. There's the bowl that you saw a little bit earlier that I carved out of oak. Here's a couple of photos of my buffet that I handmade out of plywood. The whole thing is made of plywood. It's not even furniture grade plywood. The only thing I had in Chile was construction grade plywood. So I made this all out of construction grade plywood. I probably have around 30 hours of sanding, 20 hours of sanding, and I have around 30 coats of urethane on it. So just to give you an idea of the work that was entailed. Now this is actually all screwed and glued together. Under each of these dowels is actually a screw, and I just capped each screw with a wooden dowel, and then I went back and sanded it all down. So you can kind of see about the construction of it. The base is also plywood. It held up really well. I think the only thing that's actually solid wood are these, and they're not even a good wood. They're pine. But this thing held up a lot. It held up for many years. And it's still going strong. Somebody bought it from me when we left Chile and came back to the States. And I even handmade the sliders. They're not metal sliders. They are just simply, I used the circular saw and cut 2 long grooves and then used the chisel at the end to square them off, and my door slid in that. And the doors are permanent mounted because it's glued and screwed together. Those doors won't come back out, and I did not make them so that they could slip one inside the other by having one channel deeper than the other. So I hope nobody ever breaks those doors. More photos of it. It's just, once again, basic plywood, but it turned out fairly nice. I'm pretty happy with it. Here's a hand drawing I did of a sign. It's stylized. I like to do that a lot. I don't really try to exactly copy anything. I just use it as a base for stylization, and I make them my own. An old mic that I drew that I illustrated in a way that made it fun for me. Old TV, an old clock, and then these are all the conversions into Illustrator. You can see how I took the original drawing and then modified it slightly. And then here, of course, you've already seen one of the chairs, which is this one here, and then this one here I also did, which is right here, and I brought that into Illustrator as well. Here's another poster that I made just for fun, Johnny Cash, and then there's a Carl Perkins one. This one is it's all Photoshop. It's unique to me because it was a long process of bunch of trial and error, and I think it actually took me a number of days to do it, but I really like cafe racers and stuff. So once again, did this one in inspiration of some of the bikes I was looking at the time. Here's another cafe racer one. These are some stickers for some cafe racer and vintage guys that I was making. Once again, another one. This was hand drawn on a tablet. When I say tablet, I mean like an actual iPad tablet. I did it in Notes, and I used their markers, and I layered markers and things like that, and I actually drew this out of, just with my finger on the tablet. And then another one that I did the same way. And then this is a little knife that I made. It's called a Japanese scoring knife. It's to make relief cuts for chisel blades to fit in, for making precision cuts like dovetails and that kind of stuff. You can see a little bit more of it. That's why the handle is only on one side. This is hardened, but it was not tempered. I did not have an oven to temper it, so I hardened it by making a homemade forge out of a piece of firewood, which that's over on beginnersfab.com if you want to see that. And then I just did this, and that's how it turned out. So it was an interesting first knife. It's the first and only knife I've made yet. It needed some work, but it was a fun project to try, and I'll do some more in the future, I'm pretty sure. Here's a coat rack that I made. It's a two-tone coat rack. In Chile, they sell a thing of plywood that is a very water-resistant plywood. It's a hardwood, which is this red. Here it's called koiwe, and that's what my dining room table was made of that I showed you earlier. And so I put that on top of just a piece of eucalyptus plywood, which is the most common plywood down there. And then I used wooden dowels to have the coat hangers on it. Now these are this is all hand cut with a jigsaw, and then of course a circular saw for the rectangle board there. And then here and here you can see is where the bolts go, and it mounts up to the wall. Sorry, some of these photos are small. They're smaller than I had hoped, but they're the ones that I could find for this. So once again, you can see there's where the screws go, and then I had a dowel that I plugged that hole with, and I didn't glue it so I could pull it back out and take the screws out of the wall. I know it wasn't very insightful. That kind of wasn't the point of this episode. This episode was just kind of introduce you to who I am, what I do. So in future episodes, what can you look forward to? Well, you can look forward to some time-lapse illustrations or graphics like the one at the very beginning, the intro sequence to this episode. And you can also look forward to some time-lapse of painting, time-lapse of woodworking, and tutorials on making different things. I have a bunch of plexiglass that I was given, so I'll be thinking of ideas of what to do with that. I think I'm going to make some letter signs with it, and I also think that I'm going to probably make a few lamps with it. And I've got some ideas for some planter boxes, some furniture, different things like that. And then as I get as more ideas come, then I'll just make those as well. So I hope you guys like what you saw. I have a lot of techniques that I have learned about and have only applied once or have not been able to apply at all. So I'll be looking forward to showing you guys some of that when I have some time. And I hope that you guys kind of know who I am now. Once again, my name is Eric McGrew, and I want to thank you for stopping by and seeing this episode. I hope you come back to see the future ones that I make, and please don't forget to hit that like button, and don't forget to stop by and see my other episodes. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and also if you want to leave a comment, let me know. I have a ton of acrylic. What would you guys like to see me make out of an acrylic sheet? I'd be interested to know, because honestly I've been struggling a little bit to figure out what projects to make from acrylic. So let me know what you think and what ideas you guys have, and I'll be more than happy to see if I can't put them into practice. So thanks guys, and I hope to see you in the next video.